Captain Park Eunice stood at the edge of the grand hall and watched the aliens move around her like water flowing past a stone. The Galactic Assembly meeting had brought together thousands of beings from across the stars. Some had scales, some had wings, some floated in special tanks filled with strange liquids. Una had seen many things in her 10 years of space travel, but this place still amazed her. Humanity had joined the Galactic Assembly only 50 years ago. They were the youngest species in a community of 4,000 civilizations. Most aliens treated humans with polite curiosity, like adults watching children learn to walk. Una did not mind. She knew her people had much to learn, but something strange was happening today. Una noticed it first when she tried to approach the eastern section of the hall. This area belonged to the Ven, the oldest species in the galaxy. The Ven had existed for over 2 billion years. They had seen stars born and die. They had watched countless species rise and fall. Every civilization in the assembly respected them as living libraries of cosmic history. Yet whenever Una walked toward their section, the Ven quietly moved away. Their tall, thin bodies turned. Their 4 eyes looked elsewhere. They simply left, as if she carried some terrible disease. She mentioned this to Lieutenant Kong Tajin, her chief science officer. He was a quiet man who loved ancient mysteries more than modern parties. He stood beside her now, holding a tablet filled with notes. "I noticed it too," Tajin said. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed concern. "Watch what happens when Ambassador Lee tries to speak with them." Una watched. Ambassador Lee, the head of Earth's delegation, approached a group of Ven elders with a warm smile. Before he could say a single word, the Ven bowed politely and walked away in different directions. Lee stood alone, confused. "This is not normal," Una said. Tajin agreed. "I checked the assembly records last night. The Ven have never refused contact with any species. They talk to everyone. They share knowledge freely. But with humans, they have maintained complete silence since we first sent radio signals into space." Una felt cold despite the warm air. Why would the oldest species in the galaxy avoid the youngest? Tajin showed her his tablet. On the screen was a star map with a large red circle around a familiar region of space. "I found this in the Ven navigation archives. It is called a quarantine zone. No Ven ship has entered this area for 50,000 years. Una looked at the center of the red circle. Her heart stopped for a moment. "That is Earth," she whispered. "Yes. They marked our entire solar system as forbidden territory long before humans even existed. Long before we built our first cities or learned to write." Oh, Minji, their communications specialist, joined them. She was young and brilliant, with a gift for languages that had earned her a place on the best exploration ship in Earth's fleet. Her face looked troubled. "Captain, I intercepted something," Minji said quietly. "A private Ven transmission? Most of it was encrypted, but I caught a few words." "What words?" Minji hesitated. "Children of the Wound. They called us the Children of the Wound." Una felt the weight of those words. She did not understand them, but they carried darkness. Something old. Something feared. "I want answers," Una decided. "Request a formal meeting with their elder counselor." The request went through official channels. Una expected delays. She expected negotiations. She did not expect what came back. The Ven responded within 1 hour. Their message was short and written in the formal language used for sacred matters. It said, "We do not speak with the Children of the Wound. This decision is final. No petition will change it. We are sorry." Una read the message 3 times. In all of galactic history, the Ven had never refused to meet with anyone. They had talked with species that later became enemies. They had shared knowledge with civilizations that used it for war. They believed communication was sacred, but they would not speak to humanity. Ambassador Lee was furious. He demanded explanations from other species. Most knew nothing. The Calorie ambassador, a reptilian diplomat named Tessic, pulled Una aside during a quiet moment. "I have known the Ven for 300 years, Tessic said. His scales shifted colors with worry. "They have never done this. They are afraid, Captain. I can see it in how they move, how they speak. Something about your species terrifies them. We are not dangerous, Una said. We have barely learned to travel between stars. I know, Tessic replied. That is what makes this so strange. You are young and weak by galactic standards. No offense intended. Yet the oldest beings in existence treat you like a plague. Why? Una had no answer. That night, Minji came to her quarters with new information. The young woman's hands were shaking. I decoded more of the transmission, Minji said. There were coordinates hidden inside. Coordinates pointing to a location in human-controlled space. Minji swallowed hard. Earth's moon. Something's on our moon, Captain. Something the Ven have been watching for a very long time. Una stood by the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, her home planet orbited a small yellow sun. A moon circled that planet. Humans had walked on that moon centuries ago. They had built bases on it. They thought they knew every rock and crater, but the Ven had been watching it for 50,000 years. Perhaps longer. Prepare the ship, Una ordered. We are going home. Captain, we do not have authorization for this mission, Taijan said carefully. I know. Una turned to face her officers. But the oldest species in the galaxy has marked our home as forbidden territory. They refuse to tell us why. They call us the children of the wound. She paused. If there is something on our moon that explains this, we need to find it, before someone else decides what to do about it. The Starward Dawn left the station that night. As they jumped into faster-than-light travel, Una looked back at the shrinking lights of Oryx Prime. Somewhere on that station, the Ven were watching. She could feel their ancient eyes on her. And for the first time, she understood that humanity's place in the galaxy might be very different from what anyone had believed. The journey home had begun. But Una suspected that what they found would change everything. The Starward Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. Earth hung in the distance like a blue marble against the black void. Una had seen her homeworld many times before, but today it looked different. Today it looked like a mystery waiting to be solved. They traveled quietly toward the moon. Una had told Earth Command they were returning for routine crew rotation. It was a small lie, but necessary. She could not explain the truth because she did not yet understand it. Shale Slef Dr. Beak Sunwoo was waiting for them at Armstrong Base. He was an old man with wild gray hair and tired eyes. For 30 years, he had studied the lunar surface. For 30 years, the scientific community had called him a fool. He believed something unnatural lay beneath the moon's ancient dust. Nobody had believed him until now. Captain Park, Sunwoo said as Una stepped off the shuttle. I received your message. I must admit, I never thought anyone would take my work seriously. Tell me what you found, Una said. Sunwoo led them through narrow corridors deep into the base. They passed laboratories and storage rooms until they reached a locked door. Sunwoo placed his hand on the scanner. 20 years ago, I discovered strange readings beneath Mare Tranquillitatis, he explained as the door opened. Energy signatures that should not exist. Materials that match nothing in any database. I reported my findings. The government buried them. They said I was imagining things. The room beyond was filled with screens and equipment. In the center stood a holographic display showing a three-dimensional model of the moon's interior. But I never stopped looking, Sunwoo continued. He touched the display and it zoomed into a location deep beneath the surface. And I found this. Una stared at the image. It showed a massive circular structure buried under kilometers of rock. The structure was not natural. It had perfect geometric patterns. It glowed with faint energy. What is it? Taijan asked, his voice barely a whisper. A seal, Sunwoo said. Someone built this thing for 0.2 billion years ago. Before Earth finished forming, before life existed on our planet, someone put this here and buried it deep. Minji stepped closer to the display. The energy signature matches the term I found in the Ven transmission. They called it the wound. The wound, Una repeated. The words felt heavy on her tongue. The Ven have known about this for billions of years. They created a quarantine zone around our entire solar system because of it. But what is it sealing? Tajan asked. Sunwoo's face grew dark. I have spent decades trying to answer that question. The best I can tell you is this. The seal is not keeping something out. It is keeping something in. The room fell silent. Yuna felt the weight of those words pressing down on her chest. Admiral Shindeho arrived 3 hours later. He was a large man with a stern face and no patience for secrets. He had learned about their unauthorized investigation and flew directly from Earth's orbital defense station. Captain Park, Deho said coldly. You have violated 6 different protocols. You have lied to Earth Command. You have conducted unauthorized research on sovereign territory. Give me one reason I should not arrest you right now. Yuna showed him everything. The Ven avoidance, the quarantine zone, the ancient seal beneath the moon. She watched his face change from anger to confusion to fear. This is impossible, Deho said finally. I thought so too, Yuna replied. But the evidence is clear. Something has been buried under our moon since before our planet was born, and the oldest species in the galaxy has been avoiding us because of it. Deho sat down heavily. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he looked at Yuna with tired eyes. You have 72 hours? Find out what you can. After that, I must report to Earth Command. It was more than Yuna had hoped for. They drilled through the lunar crust for 2 days. The work was slow and dangerous. Ancient rock crumbled around their equipment. Strange energy bursts disrupted their sensors. But they pushed forward. On the 3rd day, they reached the seal. It was enormous. The circular structure stretched 4 kilometers in every direction. Its surface was covered with patterns that hurt to look at, symbols that seemed to shift and move when viewed directly. The material felt warm despite the frozen moon around it. These symbols are not in any language we know, Minji said. Her voice trembled. But I feel like I should understand them. Like the meaning is just beyond my reach. Tejan scanned the seal with every instrument they had. The energy readings are incredible. There is something behind this barrier. Something massive. A dimensional anomaly of some kind. Is it dangerous? Deho asked. I cannot tell. It seems stable. It has been stable for over 4 billion years. Tajan paused. But the readings are changing, slowly, very slowly, as if something is waking up. At that moment, alarms rang through their communication devices. Yuna checked her scanner and felt her blood freeze. A Ven ship had entered Earth's solar system. It was the first time any Ven vessel had violated the quarantine zone in recorded history. They know we found it, Yuna whispered. The Ven ship did not approach them. It stopped near Mars and began broadcasting. The message went out to every species in the galaxy. It was transmitted in all known languages, repeated over and over. Mingi translated it with shaking hands. The inheritors have found the door. All species prepare for convergence. Yuna looked at the ancient seal before her. She thought about the Ven, who had hidden from humanity for so long. She thought about the billions of people on Earth who had no idea what was happening. What does that mean? Deho demanded. Who are the inheritors? What is convergence? Nobody had answers, but deep beneath their feet, in the darkness beyond the seal, something stirred. Something old. Something patient. Something that had been waiting for this moment for longer than the Earth had existed. The seal pulsed once with pale light, and in that pulse Yuna felt something she could not explain. A presence. A consciousness. Ancient and vast and somehow familiar. It knew they were there. It had been waiting for them to come. The countdown had begun, though to what end, none of them could guess. The galaxy erupted into chaos. The Ven broadcast reached every corner of known space within hours. Species that had never cared about Earth suddenly turned their attention toward the small blue planet. Fear spread faster than light itself. On the station world of Oryx Prime, the Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. Representatives from thousands of civilizations screamed at each other. Some demanded immediate action. Others called for calm. But beneath all the noise was a single question. What had humanity found? The Calorie Ambassador Tessic stood before the assembly and asked the Ven to explain. The ancient beings remained silent. Their 4 eyes stared at nothing. Their thin bodies stood perfectly still. "You owe us answers," Tessic said. "For millions of years you have guided this assembly. You have shared your knowledge freely. Now, you hide the truth about an entire species. Why?" Elder Nometh, the oldest Ven in the chamber, finally spoke. His voice was like wind through dead leaves. "Some truths are too dangerous to share. Some doors must remain closed." "What door? What truth?" Tessic demanded. "The children of the wound have found what we hoped they would never find. The seal is weakening. Soon it will open, and when it does, everything will change." The assembly descended into panic. On Earth's moon, Una received reports of what was happening above. Ships from dozens of species were gathering at the edge of the solar system. They were not coming to help. Commander Huang Ara arrived with Earth's first contact response team. She was a woman of action, not patience. Her soldiers surrounded the dig site with weapons ready. "Captain Park," Ara said, "I have orders to secure this location. No more digging. No more research. Whatever is down there stays buried." "It is too late for that," Una replied. "The seal is already reacting. Something knows we are here." As if to prove her point, the ground beneath them trembled. The ancient symbols on the seal began to glow brighter. Readings from their instruments went wild. Then a new ship appeared in lunar orbit. It was small and carried no weapons. A single life form transported down to the surface. It was a Ven. But unlike the elders Una had seen at the assembly, this one was young. Its skin was smooth, its movements quick. It raised its 4 hands in a gesture of peace. "My name is Yul," the Ven said. "I have come to surrender, and to tell you what my people have hidden for 4 billion years." Era raised her weapon. "Why should we trust you?" "Because I believe you deserve the truth," Yul replied. "My people made a terrible mistake long ago. It is time to correct it." They brought Yul inside the base. Director Cho Haejeon, head of Earth's United Science Council, arrived to oversee the interrogation. But Yul did not resist. The young Ven seemed relieved to finally speak. "Long before my kind existed," Yul began, "the galaxy was ruled by the architects. They were not physical beings like us. They were consciousness itself, energy given form and thought. They created stars. They shaped planets. They designed the conditions for life to grow." Everyone listened in silence. Architects created the Ven as their servants. "We were the first organic species made to watch over the physical universe while they attended to higher matters. For millions of years, we served them loyally." "What happened to them?" Tajan asked. Yul's eyes closed briefly. The architects grew tired of physical reality. They wanted to transcend, to merge all consciousness in the universe into one perfect unity. They believed this would end all suffering, all conflict. Everything would become one. "That sounds peaceful," Minji said uncertainly. "It sounds like death," Yul replied. Not all architects agreed. Some believed that individual consciousness was sacred. They believed every being should have the choice to remain separate, to be themselves. They called forced unity a kind of murder. Una felt something stir in her chest. A strange recognition. "There was a war," Yo continued. "The dissenters fought against the majority. They lost. But the victorious architects could not destroy their brothers. Instead, they imprisoned them. They created a seal to contain their essence. Then they departed the physical universe, leaving the Ven to guard the prison forever." "The seal under our moon?" Una whispered. "Wes, the defeated architects were sealed away 4.2 billion years ago. But before they were imprisoned, they did something unexpected. They scattered pieces of themselves across the young universe. Seeds of their consciousness hidden in the building blocks of life." Yul turned to face Una directly. "When your species evolved, we were horrified. Your DNA carries markers identical to the defeated architects. You are not random evolution. You are what remains of them, reborn into flesh. Their children?" The room was silent. Una could hear her own heartbeat. "We are descended from gods?" Haejeon asked. "You are descended from those who sacrificed everything to defend free will," Yul said. You carry their legacy in every cell of your bodies. And now that you have found the seal, the architects within are waking. They sense their children nearby. As Yule spoke, the ground shook again. This time, the tremor was stronger. Cracks appeared in the seal below, and then something happened that changed everything. A voice appeared in Yuna's mind, not heard through her ears, but felt directly in her thoughts. It was warm and sad, and incredibly old. "Children," the voice said, "we remember you. We have waited so long. It is time to come home." Yuna looked around. From the expressions on their faces, she knew everyone had heard it. Every human in the base. Perhaps every human on Earth. The seal cracked wider. Light began to pour through, and deep within her heart, Yuna felt something ancient stir. A memory that was not her own. A love that had survived 4 billion years of darkness. The architects were waking. Their children had finally come to find them, and the galaxy would never be the same. Across the galaxy, humans began to dream. A factory worker in Seoul saw himself building stars from cosmic dust. A teacher in Busan experienced memories of watching planets form over millions of years. A child in Daegu woke up speaking equations that no human had ever discovered. Millions of people received fragments of ancient knowledge. For most, it felt like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, aware of depths they could not comprehend. Some found peace in the visions. Others screamed and could not stop. The galaxy watched in horror. The Galactic Assembly voted within hours. The decision was nearly unanimous. Only the Ven abstained, bound by their ancient oath to guard rather than destroy. But every other species agreed. Humanity must be eliminated before the awakening. Korm played combined fleet of 50. 1,000 warships from 300 species, mobilized toward Earth. It was the largest military force ever, assembled in galactic history. Their orders were simple: destroy the planet. Kill every human in space. Leave nothing behind. Grand Admiral Moon Jae received the news aboard Earth's orbital defense station. She was a woman who had fought many battles, but she had never faced anything like this. Earth's entire military consisted of 200 ships. Against 50,000, they had no chance. "How long until they arrive?" Jae asked. 72 hours, her aide replied. 72 hours until extinction? On the moon, Yuna stood before the cracking seal and felt the presence growing stronger. The voice in her mind had not spoken again, but she could sense it waiting, patient, hopeful. "We need to open it completely," Yuna said. Commander Era stepped forward angrily. "Are you insane? We do not know what is in there. It could be a weapon, a disease, a monster." "It is none of those things," Yel said quietly. "It is simply consciousness. Vast and ancient, but not evil. The architects who were imprisoned here did nothing wrong. They fought to protect free will." "Your people locked them away," Tajin pointed out. "My people followed orders," Yil replied. "We believed the lies we were told. We thought we were protecting the galaxy from dangerous criminals. We never questioned. And for 4 billion years we have guarded prisoners who should have been celebrated as heroes." Yuna made her decision. Open the seal. Took 3 hours to widen the cracks enough for someone to pass through. The light that poured out was not blinding but gentle, like sunlight through morning clouds. Yuna stepped forward alone. "Captain, you cannot," Era protested. "Have to," Yuna replied. "If we are truly their children, then we need to meet our ancestors. We need to understand what we are." She walked into the light. The world dissolved around her. Yuna found herself floating in infinite space, surrounded by stars that felt close enough to touch. Before her stood a being of pure light. It had no fixed shape, but constantly shifted and changed like fire made of thoughts. "It came," the being said. Its voice was the voice from her dreams. "After so long, our children came," Yuna asked. "We were called architects once. We built this galaxy. We created life, and we were punished for believing that life should be free." The being pulsed with sadness. "Our brothers wanted unity, perfect harmony. All minds joined into one. We refused. We believed every consciousness deserves the choice to remain individual. Una felt tears on her cheeks. They imprisoned you for that. For 4 billion years. But we did not waste our time in darkness. We scattered seeds across the cosmos. Pieces of ourselves hidden in the fabric of life. And those seeds grew into you. The being showed Univisions. She saw early humans discovering fire. She saw them creating art, music, mathematics. She saw them fighting and loving and dreaming. In every vision, she glimpsed something familiar, a spark of the architects burning quietly in human hearts. You inherited our gift, the being continued. The capacity to create, the love of freedom, the belief that every individual matters. This is why the galaxy fears you. Not because you are powerful, but because you carry the seeds of everything they tried to destroy. The fleet, Una said suddenly. 50,000 ships are coming to destroy Earth. Yes, we can feel their approach. The being flickered with concern. We can help you, child. We can share our power. You could become what we once were. You could reshape reality itself. For a moment, Una imagined it. Humanity transformed into gods. Fleets scattered with a thought. Enemies erased from existence. Absolute power. Then she thought about the Assembly's fear. She thought about the Ven, who had guarded this prison for billions of years based on lies. She thought about what power without wisdom had done throughout human history. Oh. She said the being seemed surprised. No. We do not want to become gods. We want to remain human. Una took a deep breath. You fought for free will. You sacrificed everything so that beings like us could choose our own paths. If we accept your power just to survive, we betray everything you stood for. The being was silent for a long moment. Then it began to glow brighter. Not with anger, but with something Una recognized. Pride. You truly are our children, the being said. You understand what our brothers never did. Power means nothing without the wisdom to refuse it. But the fleet will destroy us, Una said. Billions of people will die. And let us give you something better than power, the being replied. Let us give you truth. Every mind in the galaxy will see what really happened. They will experience our memories, our sacrifice, our choice. And then they will have to decide what kind of universe they want to live in. The light grew brighter. Una felt herself being lifted. Will you let your children burn for their ancestors' mercy? The being asked why UNA thought about Earth, about the people she loved, about the future humanity might never see. If we become destroyers to survive, we do not deserve to survive, she said. Share the truth. Let the galaxy choose. The being embraced her with warmth that felt like coming home. Then let them see, it whispered, and the light exploded outward. Racing toward every corner of the galaxy, the truth was coming. Nothing would ever be the same. The wave of light reached the alien fleet first. 50,000 ships hung in space like a wall of steel and fire. Weapons were charged. Commanders were ready. In 12 hours, they would reach Earth and end humanity forever. Then the light touched them. Every being in the fleet experienced the same vision at the same moment. They felt what it was like to be an architect billions of years ago. They experienced the joy of creating stars and shaping worlds. They felt the love the architects had for all living things.
How?
Even species that did not yet exist. Then they experienced the war. They felt the horror, being told that individual consciousness was a mistake. They felt the architects' desperate fight to protect free will. They felt defeat, imprisonment, and the long darkness of the seal. And they felt hope. Hope that scattered seeds would grow into beings who would understand. Beings who would carry the dream forward. The vision showed them humanity. Young and flawed and often foolish, but also creative and stubborn and full of love. Humans who painted pictures of stars before they could reach them. Humans who wrote songs about futures they might never see. Humans who died for freedom over and over again throughout their short history. The children of the architects. The inheritors of free will. The fleet commanders looked at each other in stunned silence. On the Colliery flagship, Tessic wept. He had voted to destroy Earth. He had called humanity a plague. Now he understood. The species he had feared were the descendants of beings who had sacrificed everything to give him the right to exist as an individual. On the Manthuri command vessel, the insectoid admiral broadcast a single word in the ancient architect tongue, a word their species had somehow inherited without knowing its origin, a word that meant forgiveness. Ship after ship powered down their weapons. Elder. Nometh watched from his Ven observation vessel. He was over 2 billion years old. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed the birth of countless species. In all that time, he had never cried. He cried now for eons. He had believed he was protecting the galaxy from dangerous prisoners. He had followed the orders of departed gods without question. He had helped create a quarantine zone around beings who had done nothing but defend his right to think his own thoughts. The Ven had guarded their own saviors like criminals. The shame of it was unbearable. Nometh broadcast to the entire fleet, "Stand down. All vessels stand down. We have wronged the inheritors. We have wronged ourselves." One by one, the ships obeyed. On Earth's moon, Una emerged from the light. The being behind her had begun to fade, its purpose finally complete. "What will happen to you?" Una asked. "We will sleep again," the being replied. "But differently now. Not as prisoners, but as ancestors watching over their children. When you dream, sometimes you will feel us there. Will we become like you? Not in your lifetime. Perhaps not for thousands of generations. But the seeds are planted. Slowly, over time, humans will unlock the knowledge within them. Not as weapons. As tools for creation, for healing, for understanding, as the being flickered with warmth. You will have a long road, child. But you will walk it as humans, not as gods. That is your greatest gift." The light faded. The seal closed, but gently now. Not a prison door, but a doorway between sleeping parents and their waking children. Una walked out of the chamber to find Admiral Deho waiting for her. His face was wet with tears. "The fleet has stood down," he said. "All of them. They are requesting permission to send envoys." "Tell them yes," Una replied. "Tell them all yes." The days that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. The assembly reconvened, but the mood was completely different. Species that had never cared about Earth now sent their finest ambassadors. Civilizations that had voted for humanity's extinction came, bearing gifts and apologies. The Ven requested permanent diplomatic relations with Earth, not as guardians or watchers, but as students. After billions of years of following orders, they wanted to learn what their creators had truly valued. They wanted to understand freedom. Yal stayed on Earth as the first Ven ambassador. The young archivist spent hours talking with human scholars about art, music, and philosophy. Things that made no practical sense, but somehow gave life meaning. "Your ancestors understood something we forgot," Yul told Tajan one evening. "That existing is not enough. You have to feel. You have to create. You have to matter as an individual." Grand Admiral Jizier retired from military service. With the immediate threat gone, she turned her attention to building connections rather than defenses. Earth's fleet became exploration vessels, carrying humans and their new allies to unknown corners of the galaxy. Captain Park Una returned to space. The Starward Dawn was given a new mission: seek out whatever the architects had left behind in the cosmos. Not weapons or technology, but wisdom. Seeds of knowledge scattered across billions of years before she left. She visited her mother in a small town outside Seoul. The old woman had experienced the visions like everyone else. "It was strange," her mother said. "All my life, I felt like there was something more. Something I was supposed to remember, but could not. Now I understand. We are not alone. We never were." Una held her hand. "Are you afraid?" "A little," her mother admitted. "But mostly, I am proud. My daughter helped save the world. My ancestors helped create it. What more could an old woman ask for?" Una laughed and cried at the same time, years later. Long after the events became history, a child sat in a classroom and drew a picture. It showed stars connected by lines of light. Forming a web across the galaxy, her teacher asked what it meant. The child smiled. It is everyone. All the beings in the universe. We are all connected. We just forgot for a while. The teacher looked at the drawing and felt something warm in her chest. A memory that was not quite her own. A love that had survived for billion years. Somewhere among the stars, ancient beings dreamed peacefully. Their children were awake, and the universe was finally remembering who it was meant to be.